Let's turn now to the recent visit of EU Enlargement Commissioner Marta Koss to Azerbaijan. President Aliyev is no longer openly critical of the EU. In fact, he welcomed the establishment of a high-level economic working group. Is that a shift in the narrative? Only a few years ago, Aliyev was saying he wouldn't encourage EU institutions into Azerbaijan. What explains
Well,
this change?
I think this is another part of the fallout from the accord between Armenia and Azerbaijan. It's also a reflection of the continuing worsening of relations between Moscow and Baku. It is a way of saying to the Russians, you act as if we have nowhere to go. We do have somewhere to go. So, saying these kinds of things about the European Union now are certainly a way of indicating yet again that Azerbaijan is going to make the decisions about its relationship with the rest of the world and not have that contracted out somehow to the Kremlin. I think that I very much hope that the opening of the EU office in Baku will lead to an expansion of cooperation and trade and on other issues. Clearly, if the corridor across Munich Zengezur really does open, as we I think all hope, and trade therefore from the Caspian Basin countries goes through there and also through the Baku Jehan um, cars route, then linking that into an EU model of the world works to Azerbaijan's benefit. It sends a signal, it improves trade, it sends a signal to Moscow, we're not taking your orders anymore. And it also sets real limits on Baku's relationship with the Eurasian Economic Council that Moscow dominates. It it's a signal that we're going to pursue our own economic ties, not have them dictated by Moscow.
So Commissioner Koss also went to Yerevan.
Mhm.
How significant is the EU presence for Pashinyan, given this ongoing rift with Moscow and
Well,
Armenia?
I think for Armenians, the EU is a vastly more important institution. The Armenians' greatest supporter internationally is France, a
Mhm.
major country in the EU. It linked close ties with the EU, with a movement in the direction of EU left liberal democracy and capitalism, free market capitalism, is completely consistent with what the Armenians have wanted. I think that going to both of the countries on the same visit is a signal that the EU sees this as a package deal, which will encourage Azerbaijan to be increasingly forthcoming and will encourage Armenia to work very hard to make sure the agreement is finally signed and ratified, and that we can move beyond the Karabakh years, if that's what the last 3 decades come to be known.
But could this EU engagement embolden Pashinyan to move further away from Moscow? But does it really risk provoking Russia without giving
Well,
Armenia any real
the,
guarantees?
the Armenians the Armenians have moved further away from Moscow than Azerbaijan has. The Armenians have been very, very critical. I think that if the Russians try to respond in some kind of thuggish way, then there will be more calls in Armenia for closing the Gumri base, the Russian base at Gumri. I think that we'll see the end of any Russian role on the external borders. And you have to ask yourself, what are the Russians going to do? Are they going to launch a subversive, a direct attack? I don't think so. Do they have the resources on the ground? I think they have enough resources to cause trouble, but I don't think they have enough resources to overthrow the Pashinyan government. And short of doing that, Pashinyan is in a better position to have France as an ally than to have Russia as a friend, given the way things are going. The fact that this is all being wrapped up by the EU in a joint project, not only with Armenia, but also with Azerbaijan, is a signal to me that Pashinyan really does believe in this agreement. He's really committed to taking Armenia out of the Russian sphere of influence, and that we should see it that way. Those who say, well, Russia will be angry. Yes, Russia will probably be angry. The question is, what will Russia do? And Armenia is a whole lot better off if it has trade that goes east and west through Syunik, through Baku Ceyhan, through Turkey, and cooperating with the European Union than is if it doesn't do those things. If it doesn't have extraordinary development in its trade routes, it will find itself far weaker vis-a-vis Moscow. Moscow knows that. That's why it's causing the troubles that it causes. It's also why I think we'll see Yerevan continue to pursue the EU. And this, your question is, it does point to one important thing that we should keep in mind. Azerbaijan's statements about the EU are only about sending a message to Moscow that we are in charge, that we will decide our own fate.